You're nervous about starting grad school because you have a family and you have a full-time job and you don't know what to expect. So in this video, I'm gonna share my experience because I have a family, I have a full-time job, to help you understand what the grad school experience is like in this phase of life so that it can ease perhaps some of the anxiety you might have around starting grad school with all the other responsibilities. Let's jump into it. My experience, my first 2 semesters have been, I have a professor and then there are a number of TAs. Depending on the assignment, you might be assigned a specific TA. And so the professor might say, hey, if you have a question, reach out to your TA and CC me. But at the beginning of the semester, you have a syllabus very similar to undergrad. However, it's much more detailed. The syllabus has everything: contact information, the grading rubric, all the assignments due, along with their due dates and their objective expectations, school policies regarding honesty and that type of thing. So it's very, very detailed on, at least mine have been, on the expectations, which is really great. They have their office hours. So with the professor and TAs, so far my experience has been really good. I reach out through email and they are very responsive and usually get back within at least 24 hours. Sometimes it's the TA, sometimes professor, sometimes both. The support I have received thus far from the TA and professor have been satisfactory. It has been what I would expect. Also, I do encourage, I haven't done it this semester, but I do encourage you to get some FaceTime with your semester. I did it my very first semester and I do plan on doing it this semester. I just haven't done yet. I think it's just good to show face and even build relationships with professors, because sometimes when you graduate and depending on what you do, you might need a letter of recommendation for something else. So I think it's always good to have those connections. Next, I'm going to talk about studying, assignments, and tests. I said it before, I am getting a Master of Social Work. This program is heavy on reading. So that's something to consider if you're thinking about social work. I don't know about other programs. My first graduate degree was in IT and it was not as nearly heavy on the reading as social work. Never in my life have I read entire textbooks, but this is my third textbook I'm on and I've read every single page. And these are little words, okay? Every single page. By the end of the semester, I would have read the entire textbook. Undergrad, I never, ever did that. That's something to consider. It's a lot of reading. If you don't like reading, if you have a hard time reading for whatever reason, that's something to consider for this program. However, there are always resources and things that you can do to help you get through reading if that's hard. One of the things I do, I'm okay with reading, and for my comprehension, it's a little bit higher when I read versus auditory, but something that helps me, because sometimes I just don't have time because I have a family and a full-time job to just read and retain the information. What I do is use a program called Speechify. This is not sponsored whatsoever. Speechify allows you to copy documents in their program or upload documents and it'll read it to you. It'll read everything on your screen. This is a paid subscription. It comes with the app and desktop or web application. It's been very helpful because if you're going to doctor's appointments, if you have a lot of time where you're in your car and you can't read, you can listen to the book. It has been really helpful for times when I can't sit down and read. And generally my study habits are, I will read first, I will then listen to some, and then go back to reading parts that have been confusing or I still don't quite get. But that's something to consider. There are a lot of discussion boards, and in my opinion, they're basically mini papers. My professor, how they describe discussion boards, because I didn't do this in undergrad, but I did it in my other masters, is it's supposed to mimic a live discussion that you might have in class. You are given a question or a series of questions and you are to write about them, and it's usually based on what you've already read and other class assignments, and you integrate that into how you understand the topic. You post it and then you are required to interact with others' discussion, make comments, ask questions, and generally a discussion board post for my professors so far have been about a page or a page and a half. That sounds like a lot, but you get used to it really quickly. But also I enjoy what I'm learning. So for me to be able to write that out is just really helpful because I enjoyed it. So it's helpful for me to retain the information and have it solidify in my mind and go into my long-term memory. So I don't mind the discussion boards, but they are like mini papers. Then you have actual papers, and so far I at least have about 2 papers per class per semester. If papers are hard for you for social work, there are a lot of papers. There are resources. I use them. I always like a second pair of eyes on my papers. I have had professors just that I know through family read through my papers. I have had my husband read through papers because he is a really great writer. But also FSU has a writing lab. And so I use that as a resource. It's free. They have, I believe they're master and PhD students. And so they volunteer. I don't know if they volunteer all the time. Volunteer paid, whatever. You can do in-person or virtual assignments where they help you with your paper organization, formatting, citations, and whatever it is. So I imagine every school would probably have some type of writing center. Use that. Use that to your advantage. I have an appointment today because I have a paper due on Sunday. So I have most of my paper written, but just have a second pair of eyes to catch things that maybe I did not catch. For testing, so far I have only had multiple choice tests with one specific professor, 10 questions once a week based on the reading. Now, something that ties back into maybe Speechify is usually this is a little bit above and beyond, but my book is a physical book this semester. So what I do, it only takes about 15 minutes. What I do is take a picture of every page for the chapter I need to read, and I convert the images to PDF, and I upload those into Speechify. I also use those PDFs in Adobe Acrobat for my tests, because PDFs can be searchable. You can convert it and make it searchable in Adobe, in Acrobat. So when I'm taking a test, it is open book. I can look for keywords and find the answer. So it makes it really easy to find information quickly during tests if you have PDF, if you have Acrobat, Adobe. Also, this semester has been my first semester where I'm part of a group assignment, and it's a group paper. So this is going to be really interesting, but so far my partners seem really great. But part of grad school, there are group assignments. With studying, my main way I study, I already mentioned reading and listening to Speechify. I use Notebook LM. Notebook LM is a free tool. It's a Google tool. It's there is a phone application and web. For Notebook LM, you also upload documents. You can upload PDFs, Word documents, images, upload things from your drive, Google Documents, all the things. What I do, one of my professor records her slideshows. So I take the transcripts and I also upload that into Notebook LM. You can upload, I think, up to 20 or a bunch of sources. It will consolidate that and then create study outlines, flashcards, tests, even audio versions of whatever you upload. So it sounds like a podcast. And recently they updated it and they have a video component. So it'll make a small, short little video based off of what you upload. So it might have diagrams in the little video that it creates for you. It's usually on a couple minutes, maybe like 5 minutes, but very, very helpful. That is my main source of studying. I used to use ChatGPT to create study guides. I use it a little, mostly use Notebook LM. So that's an idea of what studying looks like, assignments and tests for my program. Next, let's get into community, because this is online. It is different than being in a classroom with your classmates. It can feel lonely and isolating. And I've heard that it's not just for me, I've also heard that from my classmates. That's something to be aware of. If community and learning and meeting with your classmates is important, that's something to consider when you're doing an online program. Now, with that said, there are things that you can do to bring your classmates together. So what I did is, first, I created a Facebook group. It was a very manual process, but I went through and I created a group and I let all my classmates know about it. And now we have maybe close to 100 people in the group. The group is great. You can ask questions, share your notes. People ask about, we have some in-person workshops that we have to do as a part of the program. People ask, hey, where are you staying? I mean, all types of things, just checking in. There have been Zoom calls. If that's important to you, you're gonna have to be intentional and take the initiative and figure out how you can build community. That's just one example of what I did. I also heard there's a WhatsApp chat. I'm not a fan of WhatsApp, so I don't want to be a part of it. It's like a long text thread, but you can create a WhatsApp group. Well, something else I also did is individually message people and say, hey, do you want to chat about school, about class? And everyone so far has been really receptive. If that's important to you, it's gonna feel weird. It's gonna feel scary. The worst that somebody can say is no, and then you go on about your business. But everybody's not gonna say no. But you message them, you email them, usually through Canvas. You can see everybody in your class, all the TAs, all the professors. And so I went through and just emailed a few folks, and I still connect with them today. What else? Let's get into family time and what that looks like going to grad school. Now, I'm a TBRI practitioner, so I've had extensive study on working with families, specifically children who have experienced complex trauma. Now, a part of that learning and what I now teach is routine and schedule. It is so important, especially from someone who has, of course, come from a traumatic, unpredictable environment, to know what's going to happen. You can also apply that to yourself as an adult. Going into a meeting, going to a new place, meeting new people. Sometimes it's just a matter of, I don't know who's going to be there, what's expected of me. So when you have a routine, when you have a schedule, that can help calm some of the nerves, help calm some of the anxiety, and help you feel safe and confident in what you're doing. So that's exactly what I recommend. Having a routine, having a schedule. Here's what I'm doing. I have a family calendar. I have two. I have a physical calendar that I keep on my fridge so myself, my husband, and my son can see it. It includes things that are going on in my schedule and my husband's schedule, but also my son's school schedule. We put all the important dates on there, family photos, meetings at the school, all of that goes on there, and important dates for my son and his class and the book fair and little things like that goes on that calendar. My husband and I also share a Google Calendar. So we put personal appointments just so we know what's going on. If I have an appointment later, then that means my husband might have to pick up my son or vice versa. So we share appointments, important meetings, things that we're going to be out of the house for, whatever it is. We put it on the Google Calendar so we know what's going on. Also, something that helps me is I'm just in constant communication with my husband about what's going on. Now, note my husband, I know everybody's situation is different. My husband is very, very supportive of me going to school, and he understands sometimes I won't be able to do certain things. But I try not to make that a habit. I try to not do that. I work school around family, not family around my school schedule. I just have that ability to do that right now with my schedule and his support. So if there's something going on, what I might do, for instance, say Saturday morning, we want to go to the farmer's market, or we want to go to the little farm and do like a hayride and pick blueberries, whatever. What I will do is, I know that we're going to do that, and I'm going to do that, but I know I also might have a test and I have a paper that I have to work on, or whatever it is. I will get up and I'll try to work on it while we're at the house and everybody's just kind of hanging around, maybe watching TV and just chilling. Do it before the event and or do it after family time. Something else I also do is I try to really get all my stuff done during the day or after my son goes to sleep, so that when he gets home, we can do homework, we get to go outside and play, we get to eat dinner together. Those are some of the things I do. I also like to stack tasks. Again, like I mentioned earlier with Speechify, going to a doctor's appointment. I need to go across town. It's going to take me 40 minutes. I'm listening to the professor's slideshow. I'm listening to Speechify. My kiddo's 6, so he's little. So sometimes he'll go outside and he'll want to play. So if his friends are outside too, that's perfect because he's outside enjoying his time. I will bring my book outside. I'll bring my computer outside and work on assignments. That's called task stacking, where you're kind of doing 2 things in one. So that's how I handle some of my family time. Cooking, we try to do quick and easy meals so that we're not spending hours and hours and hours in the kitchen. And my husband and I both do that. If he's home, he might get started on it early when I'm studying or doing my regular work, or vice versa. So we kind of just play that by ear. Something else we also put on the calendar is what we're having for dinner. Actually, I haven't done that last week, but what we try to do is put what we're having for dinner so that we don't have to worry about that. We do our grocery shopping on Saturday mornings and we pick them up. So throughout the week, we're putting stuff on our list for the next week. Put it on the calendar so everybody knows what we're eating for the week. Again, schedule, routine, it just less brain power we have to use with figuring out food, because that can be exhausting. So that's family time. Now, I have a full-time job. I own my own business, but with that comes flexibility. I know everybody doesn't have that flexibility, but what I'm able to do, because I have that flexibility, I'm a morning person. Tasks that require a lot of deep thinking, critical thinking, a lot of brain power, I will do in the morning, be it school or work. But a lot of times it's been a mix. Sometimes it's school, sometimes it's work, sometimes I have to do both. But because I've been in my industry for so long to maintain my clients, I can do that in the evening, no problem, unless it's a client meeting, I'm working on a report, or we have a face-to-face. That's what my work looks like. So I have a lot of flexibility there. However, some of my classmates, they don't. They go into an office and they go 8 to 5. What I've heard is they work 8 to 5, and then when they get home, they will do their schoolwork. If they have kids, their spouses are putting them to bed, or they still are helping them with their homework and helping with dinner. Then after all of that, then they're doing their schoolwork. They might be able to, on their lunch breaks and things like that, work on assignments, but essentially all that work is happening on the weekends and in the evenings. But for me, I'm able to alternate between doing work and doing school, and I kind of do that throughout the day, again, unless something big is coming up and I have to front load some of the brain work, the heavy brain work, and do that in the morning. With all of that said, I want to share that grad school, while having a family, while having a full-time job, is very possible. If I can do it, you can do it. My classmates are doing it. Is it hard? Yes. Is it stressful? Yes. But is it doable? Absolutely. It's more than doable. And listen, tap into those resources that I told you about. Talk to your TAs, talk to your professor. Use the Writing Center. If they have other resources, use those to make things easier. But going to school with a family, it takes some adjusting, but it's possible. Let me tell you this. My very first semester, it was really hard. And I'm sure I'm going to get into another semester that'll be hard, but just getting used to everything. It felt like whoosh, like a whirlwind. But after a few months, you really get an understanding of what the professors expect. And I know I've already mentioned expectations, but even within those expectations, what that looks like when you're submitting assignments in the level. And so, but you start to get used to that really quickly. And I think that also helps. So that first semester was the hardest for me. Now I have an understanding and I know what needs to happen to balance family and school and make good grades. I'm able to do that easier. You will figure it out. It is very, very, very possible. Again, if I'm doing it, you can do it. If you are going to school, you have a full-time job, you have a family and friends and a life that you're trying to balance, let me know down in the comments what's working for you, what doesn't work for you, so that we can encourage each other on this journey. And until next time, have a good one.